During the time that I've been district judge, I've seen many child protective service cases from the time of the first removal of a child until the resolution of the case. It may be from up to 12 months, with an extension could be up to 18 months. During this time, the child is removed from their home situation. It's a very traumatic time in the child's life. During the course of the case, there will be several Child Protective Service investigators and caseworkers involved in the case. The child may be moved to several different placements during this time. The role of the CASA volunteer is to be a person that will be a friend and someone that the child can talk to that will have continuity in the case. The CASA volunteer can bring concerns to the attention of Child Protective Services, the attorney ad litem, in the court. The CASA volunteer can make the court, as well as the attorney ad litem and Child Protective Services, aware of concerns about the child, perhaps additional resources that could be utilized in needs of the child. This is an opportunity for you to make a change in a young child's life that will affect them the rest of their lives. Unfortunately, sometimes the victims of child abuse and neglect grow up to be people who may abuse and neglect their own children. It's so important that you make a difference in this young person's life to stop this cycle of child abuse and neglect.
I believe my role as a CASA volunteer is to provide a voice from the child to the attorney ad litems, the judges, the courts, to let them know of the child's wishes. And I enjoy doing this service because they need to be heard. The child needs to be heard, and just to make sure that they are getting a safe environment and they're protected. It's a rewarding role to do.
Why CASA is important to me as an attorney ad litem is they provide an invaluable service for all of us attorneys who serve on these CPS cases. I try my best to make it out to every foster home that these children are in consistently, but with as many cases as we have, I rely on these CASA volunteers who go out and spend time with these children every day. And it's my job to represent to the court what I believe is in the child's best interest, and I could not do that without the efforts of these CASA volunteers. I was a volunteer before I went to law school, so I understand the dedication that's needed for this position. And I can't tell you how many times I've picked up the phone and called my CASA representative and asked, hey, have you been out to this home? Can you tell me what's going on? What can I do to better the situation? These people are volunteers, and they are there strictly because they love these children. They care about these children. And we're not talking about kids who are starving in Africa. We're talking about children who are right here in our backyard. They go to school with your children, with my children. They live down the street from you. They live down the street from your mom. They need our help. They need our assistance. And CASA volunteers are just an invaluable asset to the entire justice system. And I'm so thankful that we have them to aid us in our cases every single day.
My hope for my volunteers is that they can be an effective voice for the children in foster care, and that each and every child's best interest is heard. Giving these children a sense of stability and being a constant in a forever changing foster care system will allow our volunteers to provide hope and a sense of security when these children just want to go home. My greatest hope is that my volunteers know that and understand that they are forever changing the lives of these children, and that they may very well have the greatest impact on their future.
Well, for us, our earliest foster child, the first foster child we got, The CASA was the most important person on the case, actually. We're in a rural county, and our workers were actually had to come out of the other county for both our agency and for CPS. And the CASA was the only local contact, and he did a lot of the footwork. Actually talked with the bio mom, but when it came court time, he was actually probably the only voice standing before the judge. They had consistently seen the child and knew what was going on. Obviously, there were other people involved that knew the child, but nobody took it as personal as he did. Later on, we adopted a family group of 4, and the CASA with them, it was obvious that she cared about the kids. She had followed them through a long process that they had gone through, had to visit them in 2 separate homes. They lived a good distance apart just because they couldn't find a home that would take them all. And looking back, it's obvious how much legwork she had to put in of her own personal time. And she did care for them. I can remember the first time we met with her. Well, we met the kids at a museum, kind of a meet and greet to get to know them. And she was watching us. I mean, she was very friendly, but in the back of my head, it was almost like a young man going to meet the daughter's dad. You knew she was watching us to check us out, which I was okay with. It told me, one, that she cared for the kids. This wasn't just something she was going through. She honestly wanted their best welfare, and she wanted to know if we were going to be good parents for them. And so getting to see those roles as a CASA, or being a foster parent, getting to see the CASA do that, is something I think is very valuable for the children. It's definitely in their best interest to have somebody who's an impartial voice there that can, if the need be, can say what needs to be said. So for us, that was probably the biggest thing for us, was seeing how those CASAs worked for the kids that we had, and also interacted well with us. They were good communicators, actually helped us as foster parents feel at ease, and so we really put a lot of value in our CASAs.
To be a CASA volunteer means to be able to stand up for a child in court, be a voice for that child when no one else has one, be there for them through their journey through the foster care system, be the person that they can count on when no one else is available.
The cases are all different and the children are all different, and sometimes it's heartbreaking. Other times it's the most amazing thing that could happen. I've been a volunteer for over 12 years, and I've advocated on several different cases. I've had children go back to their parents. I've had children become adopted. I've had them go live with family members, and every time it's wonderful. One of the most rewarding cases was the one case that the child returned to his mother, and I still see her 6 years later, and she's doing a fantastic job with her children, and I know that I was a part of that. Becoming a CASA volunteer is the best thing you'll ever do, and you certainly won't regret it.
The only thing I know with the adoption parties is the age and the sex of the child and how many attendees will be at the party. And I knew this was going to be an extra large party, and it was a small child, and so I decorated and waited patiently for the people to come in. Also at these adoption parties, I don't always know who the adoptive parents are going to be, or even the child, what they look like. And so I guess at who the child is and who the adoptive parents are. I didn't have to guess in this one. The smiles were all over their body, if you can picture that. And so I knew who the dad was. He almost came in first, but I didn't know who the child was because 15 little children, 6 and under, walked into the room. Now, I'm an old school teacher, and I didn't have a lesson plan for 15 little children, and I had no idea what I was going to do, and panic set in. What I didn't know is that the adoptive father was an elementary principal. He sat those children down at the table along with his wife, who was a speech pathologist, and asked each one what they wanted, what type of cupcake. They served the children. All the other parents came in and helped out. They cleaned up, and when it was over, I had nothing to do but take my goods and leave. And so that is something that will always stand out to me. It was a wonderful party. Everyone did their job and more, and one little child will forever be blessed with their forever family.
I believe one of the most important jobs a CASA volunteer has to have is sincerity. Sincerity for the children. Because when you meet these children, they're going to know if they can trust you or not trust you. And I believe that the consistency that CASA has to have for these children, because we're going to have to be with them for a year and a half, and they're going to need to know that if they're moved or if they need some help at school or if they go to the hospital, that CASA will be there, and they need to know that. They will know that too, because they will be able to tell if they can trust you or not.
The most important thing that a CASA volunteer does in court is to be himself or herself. You're a CASA volunteer because you care about abused and neglected children. You're a CASA volunteer in the community where these children live, where these children go to church, where these children go to school, possibly with your children, and possibly attend church with your family. Oftentimes, a CASA volunteer is the person who spent the most time with the child and can provide details about the child's wants and wishes and needs and desires. That information is invaluable to the court. Oftentimes, the loudest voice heard in the courtroom is the clear voice of love and reason that comes from the CASA volunteer.
Good afternoon. Having been blessed to serve as your sheriff for over 20 years, I've come to know that Johnson County is truly a county of people that care. People that care about each other, care about our community, but most of all, care about our children. And we're so blessed to have the agencies that assist our children are there for them, to show them that we care and we do support them. We're there for them. And one of those, without a doubt, is CASA. We've been a part of it through the sheriff's office. We built playhouses. Different members of my organization have served on the board of directors for CASA. But through that, we have seen what CASA does. CASA is an organization that cares about children, supports children, and is there to help the children get their lives back on the road, to show them that there is a foundation to our country, that we care. CASA provides volunteers that go out and check on the child, spend time with that child, help that child through a court process if necessary, make sure that CPS is doing their job, making sure foster parents are there, reporting back to the judge to let him know that that child is being cared for. Your help with these children is so vital to continuing the great work that's been done by CASA all these years. Without CASA, our children are in trouble. We need the guidance. We need you and your support to help these children. You will make a difference in lives forever. Thank you.